Hello everybody and welcome. This is History Dude, and today we will be continuing our History of Battle series with the Battle of Qarqar. Now, before I get into any of this, I would like to talk about the Assyrians. Now, between the 9th and mid-7th century BCE, Assyria carried the practice of warfare to a new level of efficiency. Its army was an instrument of terror, using torture, massacre, and mass deportation to wreak vengeance on any people that resisted Assyrian rule. At its peak under King Tiglath-Pileser III, who reigned between 745 to 727 BCE, Assyria had a large army hierarchically organized into units led by professional generals. Now, Tiglath-Pileser's army was ethnically mixed, with foreign mercenaries and prisoners of war constituting major elements in the ranks. These soldiers were paid regularly and supplied with weapons and other material from centralized arms depots. Now, in other words, Assyria created the world's first standing army. And by standing army, I mean instead of hiring soldiers for the campaign season and having them return home to harvest their crops, you literally paid men to be soldiers year-round. And that is pretty much how the modern military system works today. So you can see how big of an advance this was. And here you can see a picture of an Assyrian chariot. Now, these kind of chariots didn't come into, the four-horse chariots didn't come into use until about the 8th century BCE, and we're focusing on the 9th century BCE in this video. But I just wanted to show you an image of what an Assyrian chariot looks like and what Assyrian soldiers look like. As you can see, they have their scaled armor and their conical helmets. So around this around the Battle of Qarqar, they were using two-horse chariots. But by the time of the 8th century BCE, 3- and 4-horse chariots, as you see here, came into use. Now, by the 9th century BCE, Assyria was the most powerful state in Western Asia, using military might to dominate and extend its large empire. As you can see in the dark green, Assyria in 824 BCE was the biggest empire in its time, in its era. And the Battle of Qarqar took place a little before this in 853 BCE, but it was around the same size. It wasn't, you know, like tiny. It was pretty much the same size. And in 853 BCE, 12 states in the eastern Mediterranean region, led by Hadadezar of Damascus and including King Ahab of Israel, formed an alliance to resist further Assyrian conquest. So basically 12 kings got together and they said, you know what, Assyria, you're too big, we don't like it, we're going to take you out. And the Assyrian king Shalmaneser III led a huge force against this alliance that would result in a battle on a scale greater than any previously recorded. Now here is an image of Shalmaneser III, and he advanced across the Tigris and Euphrates and into Syria, brushing aside resistance along the way. As you can see, he marched from Nineveh, the capital of Assyria, to Aleppo and down to Qarqar. And after sacking the city of Qarqar, he met the forces of the Syrian-led alliance near the Orontes River. Now, the Assyrian army was a mix of chariots, cavalry, and foot soldiers. Assyrian reliefs suggest that horsemen fought in pairs, side by side, with one man holding the reins of both horses while the other fired his composite bow. The infantry, by far the most numerous element, was mostly archers and spearmen. These men probably fought in pairs too, the spearman defending the bowman with his weapon and shield. Like the Assyrians, the Syrian-led alliance had several thousand chariots, many of them provided by King Ahab, but considerably fewer horsemen. Oddly, their forces included a contingent of camels provided by the King of Arabia, although it is not known how they were used. Indeed, nothing is recorded about the course of the battle. Shalmaneser claimed a victory, boasting of inflicting 14,000 casualties and capturing countless chariots and horses. Yet none of his enemies lost their thrones. So none of the kings that he fought lost their thrones. Here's an image of a man wounded by arrows being trampled by chariots. And this is a relief, Assyrian relief, from the Battle of Qarqar. Hadadazar, for example, one of the kings, the 12 kings that rose up against Assyria, ruled Damascus for another 12 years, fighting the Assyrians on half a dozen more occasions. It was not until the reign of Tiglath-Pileser III in the following century that Assyria conquered Syria and Palestine. So they didn't conquer Syria and Palestine immediately after the Battle of Qarqar. They took them another century under the reign of Tiglath-Pileser III in the 8th century BCE. Now, finally, I would like to show you an image of an Assyrian Slinger, just to give you another idea of how the Assyrian soldiers looked. Now, as you can see by the, as you saw in the original image of the chariot, you have the conical helmet and the scaled armor. Now, these small bronze plates were laced together with twine, and they were probably part of a hauberk, as you can see here. And that is how the Assyrian army was dressed, and that is how they fought. And that is about it, and that is about as much as I can teach you about the Battle of Qarqar. I hope you have enjoyed it, and I hope I have been entertaining as possible. And as always, have an awesome day.